Tasmania's forest peace negotiations are going into extra time. Signatories were given until June to reach a compromise, but they've now had to ask the federal and state governments for an extension. Despite being granted one, a deal still isn't a certainty.
It's a conflict spanning more than 3 decades, but time, it appears, is not enough.
The last few days, the signatories have come to see us and suggested that they require an extension of time. We've thought that through and we've agreed to an extension of time, the 23rd of July.
Parties were expected to reach a compromise by the end of the month on reducing native forest logging.
It's an indication that we haven't yet found an agreement. There has been a lot of negotiation over the intervening period and we've covered a lot of ground, but there is still a lot of work to be done.
This includes finalising the major points underpinning the federally funded deal.
Forest reserves, wood supply, transition, a joint vision, and also on what's going to be needed to get an agreement that's durable and genuinely lasting.
I think it just demonstrates probably the futility of the process and the difficulty about reaching agreement, and at the same time we see the industry suffering.
The parties have defended the time it's taking. The forest industry is conducting wood trials to find out its supply options.
Those issues require extensive trialling to ensure, firstly, that they are an acceptable species for processing, but secondly, to make sure that they're going to be acceptable in the marketplace.
Despite the extension, a compromise isn't certain.
We can't make any promises about that. We're certainly not there yet, and it's certainly still a really difficult process to try and find an agreement.
If there's no agreement, well then there's nothing to put through.
The government is still required to table legislation by June 30, but with no figures, it's set to be framework legislation, which the Federal Environment Minister Tony Burke has rejected.
Well, in the end, of course, the legislation goes through the Tasmanian Parliament, not the Federal Parliament, so effectively that's up to us.
More light will be shed when it's tabled next week. Jackson Vernon, ABC News.